Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So you might know that last year I migrated from Windows Hypver-V to Proxmox, and previously I used to have a script that would take a backup of all my Hypver-V VMs and move them to a storage location on my hard drives. Well, I don't have that anymore because, well, I'm using Proxmox now and I never got around to setting up a Proxmox Backup Server. And you might think, oh well, real men, they don't cry. And well, I would like to think that, but I would also like to have a backup. So in this video, I'm going to be setting up Proxmox Backup Server on my Proxmox server, obviously. But the problem with that is that my Proxmox server doesn't really have direct access to my hard drives, which are on my Truenas VM. So I had to find a way to get the hard drives exposed to the Proxmox server so that the Proxmox Backup Server can actually store the backups on the hard drives, because I don't want them stored on SSD. So that's what I'm going to be trying to figure out how to do today. So moving over to my Proxmox server, we can see I already actually have a connection to my Truenas server for the hard drive storage, and that's because I wanted to set up a qubit torrent server to have a place to store the torrents, and I didn't want them to be stored on the SSD which is connected to my Proxmox. So I did in fact create an iSCSI share for this one single container, which is storing all my torrents while I download them, and then I can access this server via SFTP to get them off of this iSCSI drive and onto my real storage. And that's because I did want this in a totally isolated environment, so this server can't actually access any of my other stuff. But that's besides the point. I don't actually want to create an iSCSI, I want to create a NFS share. Looking at my Truenas, here we can see the iSCSI share that I already have, and we can see that is created under my storage in the Proxmox server. It's pointing to the iSCSI share, and then I've created an LVM on top of that. But for backups, I want it to be a bit more simple type of storage. I don't want to be an iSCSI with partitions and LVMs and stuff on top of it, and then the Proxmox Backup Server will have a virtual disk inside of that. So I kind of wanted to simplify it by creating an NFS share instead. As you can see, I already have some SMB shares, but those are more for like accessing files in Windows, so you could probably get it to work with that, but I would like to do it with NFS instead. But before we can actually create a share, I want to quickly show you the networking that I set up to be able to accomplish this. Because obviously I could transport it over my regular network, but that would mean overhead of the physical network card, and also the limitations of my physical network card. I would obviously be using the bandwidth on the physical network card. And instead, because of this Truenas server is actually hosted on the same server as the Proxmox, because the Proxmox is hosting the Truenas, instead I just created a new virtual bridge in Linux and gave it an IP address in Proxmox, and then I assigned that virtual network bridge a secondary network interface on my Truenas. So here we can see that this is my secondary storage network, and then this is my actual network that I use to access it, which is pointing to, well, this one, and then it's going to a VLAN, and then this one is just plain with no VLAN. And what that allows me to do is, first of all, I can set the MTU to 9000 because it's a storage network. There's no fancy stuff between it. If we go into the network section of my Truenas, here we can see the IP address that I use to access Truenas from my regular LAN network. And then here we can see I just gave it some kind of random arbitrary IP address, but I just made sure the end line up so I know which one is which. And that's the same between both Truenas and Proxmox. You can see here both the end numbers line up. Now what I should be able to do from here is go onto my shares and create a new NFS share, and I have already created a backup PBS share. So this is my Proxmox Backup Server, which is the one that I want to share. Could just type in a description. Make sure it's enabled. Then on the networks we can add my 10.255.127.0. We'll just do /24. So under hosts we can specify which clients are allowed to connect to this NFS share. So obviously this entire network, but then specifically the host that would be 10.255.127. And then the Proxmox server is called 10. So this should allow the Proxmox server to connect to this share. And I don't believe there's anything else really we need to change, because you don't really set up permissions. The way that access control is granted is by being whitelisted in the hosts. I could set up security, but since I'm allowing only this IP, I think it would be fine. And then we can start the SMB service, which is not the SMB, which is the NFS service. Now to add the storage, I'm going to go into the data center tab under storage, then click add, click NFS, give it an ID. I'll call it PBS Truenas. Put it on the IP address of the Truenas server. Exports. Okay, so we do see the specific share that we have here. So it's in data backup PBS. And the content of it, I don't know actually what this really does. It would be either disk image or backup. I'm inclined to select backup, but I don't know what that really does. Oh yeah, it's a multi-select. Okay. Be backups stored on it. Let's create a user, which will be a Proxmox user. Which is called Proxmox FS. And we'll take the password. Create a primary group, that's fine. We'll select anything here, really. SMB user, what's not SMB user? Oh, SMB user, single SMB, yeah. Yeah, I'll create the user. We'll go into the share again, and we'll map the user under here. We'll do Proxmox FS, and then we'll give it permission under my dataset. So backup, PBS. We'll edit the ACL, and I think the easiest way would just be to set the owner group to be Proxmox and apply that and apply it recursively, even though there's nothing here, and I should be able to save it. Now, the owner group is Proxmox, allow modify. Which doesn't need to doesn't need to change permissions, so that should be, and then once the administrator has access to it, so now, we're going here, still gives me the error, which is great. Something else, so instead of we'll set this one to group again, and then we'll add, firstly group should have Proxmox, should have allow control, so it should be modify, and then the group for the user, yeah, user should have control. Okay, maybe this will work, so now, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, okay, so that worked. So instead of setting the owner group as the Proxmox user, I just set it back to being owner root, and then gave the group permission instead. And for some reason that works, and whereas the other one didn't. So now it's using the Proxmox user to access the share, but the server itself is not authenticating with that user because it's being mapped in the NFS share here. I think that should be alright. So now, yeah, we have PBS Truenas, which is an NFS share. And I'm not sure if Proxmox will just back up to it directly, or if we need Proxmox Backup Server. So we can try to take one of my VMs. We'll take this one, for example, and let's go under backup. So backup now. Okay, and I can put it in PBS Truenas. And I could do it as snapshot. So okay, so do I even need Proxmox Backup Server, or can I just back it up directly with like a schedule or something? So if I go into PBS Truenas backups, can I create a schedule of some kind? Maybe in summary backup, add. Oh, okay, I can do something here. So I can create a backup job under the data center level, which you don't do in the server level. So we'll try that. We'll do add. We can select either local or the share that we created node. Actually, I only had one node in this. Okay, every day I want a backup, and selection include selected VMs. Okay, but what? So those I will have to select here. So do all, exclude selected VM, or pool based. So I think, but the weird part about this is actually because I think there's also a backup tab or tag you select in the node itself. At least I remember seeing that. So if I go into like the hardware, look at the hard disk. Yeah, there's a backup here. Include volume in backup job. But I guess the VM itself has to be included, and then if the VM is included, then you also have to select this guy. And if the VM is not included, well then this doesn't matter, I guess. But you might have a VM with some hardware that you don't necessarily want to back up. So let's say I didn't want to back up my I don't know, I have this server, for example, with 3 hard drives, and I only wanted to back up the C drive and not the data drives. I guess I could do that. Or this example, this is actually a log drive, so maybe you didn't want backups of that, but yeah, we'll try to include everything. But setting this up, I'm not quite sure what you need Proxmox Backup Server for. I'm confused about that, but we'll try to set up this. Maybe you need Proxmox Backup Server if you want to have it centrally, like you have a central backup server and you want multiple nodes to access it. Let's see, I do want backup of that, but the storage drive itself on this one is a iSCSI thing, so I don't think that's going to be backed up. And then obviously the NAS itself, which the storage on this one is a PCI pass-through, so yeah, hopefully not going to create any like infinite backup loops. So notification, this is not set up for email, so but I do want to set this up for email at some point. Compression, okay, mode snapshot. So what? Yeah, so this one creates a snapshot. Suspend or stop. Ah, okay. So yeah, you can create, obviously a snapshot is while it's running. I was thinking like incremental or full, but this creates a snapshot of the VM while it's running. Okay. So yeah, we can just tell it to keep all of them. Keep last 7 backups, and then we'll keep 1 month, and then okay, so that will be daily, but I think this, yeah, you can set up like, so you keep obviously a minimum of, so I'll keep the daily backup for 7, and then I'll keep the monthly backup I'll keep 1 of. But what if this job is not going monthly? How's that gonna work then? So it might keep like 1 month, and then yeah, I'll have 1 month old, and then yeah, I don't know, I'll see. Because I'm thinking I want to keep like one from the first of every month and then only keep the last 7 days of the ongoing. So I don't know how these are gonna correlate. Okay, so keep monthly. So keep backups for the last X months. If there is more than one backup for a single month, only the last is kept. Okay. Keep backups for the last number of weeks. If there's more than one backup for a single week, only the last is kept. Ah, okay. So keep. Okay, so it's not the amount of backups you want to keep, it's the amount of weeks to have it for. So keep backups for the last weeks. But what if? How does that work when you select multiple then? So I want to keep it only for. And that should be fine. Job ID, also generate. Report missed, repeat missed. I don't think I care about any of that. Okay. So can I execute this manually? Yes, I can. Run now. Run the selected job. Yeah, it's already saved 0.5 GB, so it is doing something. Now, how can I see the progress? Could probably fold out this one. So backup job is in progress. Task okay. That's not the one. Okay, this one. Yeah, okay. So now we can see here that it's running. I did just do some Googling, and according to this guy on the Proxmox forums, it should actually be set up in Proxmox Backup Server instead of Proxmox directly, because there are a lot of benefits to having it in Proxmox Backup Server, including that the built-in backup doesn't actually have incremental backups, it doesn't have deduplication, and there's also some like instant restore. So it seems to be a lot more robust to set it up in Proxmox Backup Server instead of having it set up like this, which I didn't even know this feature existed before I tried to add the storage. So what I'll do is I'll stop this and then I'll set up Proxmox Backup Server, which I was planning to do from the beginning. So we'll remove this job and we'll change the storage so that it's actually a disk image and not backups, and then we'll go from that, and then in my Truenas we'll just wipe it. That's already backed up some gigabytes here. We'll just wipe it. So we'll go to the console, we'll go into G data backup PBS arm-rf. Else didn't actually do anything. Dot slash stop. Are you gonna delete it? Yes. Okay, got rid of the data. And yeah, it's empty again. So we'll try one more time. So not actually adding it here, we created it as a disk image instead, and then I have the community helper scripts right here, which I'll use to install Proxmox. So we'll open the shell and paste command to install it, and we'll do advanced because I do like to do stuff. Password, container, give it a host name. So Okay, set the disk size. So I'm going to be storing the things separately. We'll give it access to VMware 1, I think. Yeah. We'll do DHCP, should be fine. MTU. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fine. DNS, to IP, MAC address. Okay, so the VLAN I do actually need to set properly. So on Proxmox itself, I do have my VLAN on 99, which is my management VLAN. I do want this to communicate on the management VLAN. And that one should be fine. Nope. Enable, don't need that. Don't need that. Sure. Nope. Don't know if I need that. Default, just do default. Enable container protection. Allow specific file system. Okay, so comments rate list of NCIFS views. Leave empty for default. Okay, so I'll mount those later. And sure, do verbose. And no, I don't want to save it. No. Enable verbose. Oh, I thought it asked me to save it. Yeah, now this will create. Save these advanced settings. No, I don't want to save it. Okay. So we want to put it on my NVMe ZFS pool. And I should be able to log in. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so we have Proxmox Backup Server 4.1. Now I just need to figure out what kind of mount point I should select for it, because obviously I need to specify what path it should go in. And well, yeah, I don't really know so far. So I guess I just mount it somewhere to just do like put it in data store, I guess. And now maybe will it find it? No, I don't think I'll do. So create a folder in mount data store. Create one called PBS backups. We now have that. We'll go add. We'll call it PBS backups. We'll put it in mount data store PBS. That should be fine. Okay. So it's now creating the data store. CD didn't create anything in there yet, but now at least we see the data store, and we can see that it has, well, only 7 gigabytes. I'm not sure where it's getting those 7 gigabytes from. Because it's not a, oh well, it is a, what's a mount point, which has, well, it doesn't have any disk size here. I'm not sure where it's getting the 7 gigabytes from. Did it put anything here yet? Go to the shell. Yeah, I mean, it does have a .raw thing, so I guess it's fine. But I don't know why it's, yeah, saying like 8 gigabytes, because that surely won't be enough. I don't want it here. I want it fucking... Oh, okay, that makes sense. So I go there and then I add it. So do dash s dash pbs. Okay, and then the server will be 172. What would be the host name of it? Username will be root. Password will be that be the password. Nodes, that one. Enable content backup. Data store would be PBS. Namespace, I have no idea. Fingerprint is required for self-signed certificates. So we'll do that, and then we'll do copy that, paste it there. What are you missing? You're missing something. Do you want this again? Okay, so backups. Cool, that worked. Okay, so now my backup store thing is added. I don't see anything in here yet, but we'll maybe see it now. If I add backup, I can select that one, the backup server, and I can select every day and include all the VMs except for these 4, and won't send an email. Create a snapshot. Retention, we'll do daily, we'll do keep daily backups here, and we'll keep it for 3 weeks. Should be fine. If I run it, then does it work? Yeah, okay, so it did actually copy something, but it seems that I actually should have created a separate data store for each node. So I don't know how it will handle when I select my secondary backup server. But now my question is it actually putting the data on my data set? It is. So this, where it says 7 gigabytes, is just a load of bull crap, I guess. Because it is putting it here in the Truenas thing. Yeah, it is putting it here. And there's clearly more than 7 gigabytes available. So I'm not sure about this, but let's see, 100% now. And is it still going? Oh, there it is. There's a resize button here. Okay, so I do want to increase it to well, it's currently 8 gigabytes, so 2048 in total. Okay, so now it's increased. Now that should be able to be visible in the PPS Truenas. Yeah, it's 2.2 terabytes. And in here. Okay, so now it has plenty of space. So obviously what the problem was is when I go to my backup server, the mount point was actually, you can go up here to actions and you can do resize and you can increment it, and it was the size of it. If you go to the NFS share, it was mounted, it was limited to 8 gigabytes. So I've increased it to 2 terabytes. And if I then go into the summary of it, we can actually see that that does indeed take effect here. And we can also see in Truenas that it is actually dumping the data here. So and the network, it should be coming in through my secondary network card. Now that is added, we'll create the backup schedule, put it on that. We'll do that node, we'll do every day, and we'll just do all of them, I think. Yeah, exclude selected, then we'll just not select any. We'll do the same, we'll do 7.3, and I can't create it because I'm missing something. Snapshot, default. I do have to select one if I do that. So we'll do, well, this one actually I don't need a backup of because I'm going to delete it. And this one is also going to be deleted. So that should be fine. Yep. So now I can run that. And that's going to communicate with my PBS on the management VLAN because PBS is running on that. And this node is actually not going to have anything to do with the storage of those backups. So the way it's working now is I have a NFS share on my Truenas, which you can just see in the shares. So here we can see the PBS Truenas. Let's see the name of it. Well, that doesn't have a name, but it's mounted on a backup PBS. And then in Proxmox, we can see the PBS Truenas NFS, which is pointing to the Truenas server. And it's only enabled on this one node. And I haven't set up any backup things here, which I don't know if I'd need that. And then obviously that disk has one container image or volume on it, which is the mount point that is on my container here. So the container has a mount point for the mount data store, which is obviously pointing to the PBS Truenas NFS share. So yeah, it's accessing the mount point over the NFS share that Truenas is accessing. And then Truenas has a backup target mounted here, which is a Proxmox Backup Server target, which is pointing to the IP address of the backup server, and it's obviously logging into that. So it's actually, the backups will go from the server to this VM, and then from the VMs they'll go to this guy, which is pointing to my Truenas, which is actually here, but this one has a PCI pass-through. So if this server were to go down, I'd have to set up a Proxmox environment with a container which has a mount point pointing to my Truenas thing here. And this share is being backed up. Obviously I have it here, but this one is being backed off through my ZFS replication. So that's why I want it to be in Truenas, is because I'm already taking backups in the data protection tab, I have here. Yeah, I guess the backup target itself is going through the network adapter, but it's actually not, because it's going through the network bridge. If I find the correct thing. Yeah, network. So the backups themselves are actually being transferred through this bridge, not this bridge. So the traffic first goes to the backup server from Proxmox via this bridge, and then the backup server communicates through Truenas, or through So it goes to this one, communicates with the backup server, and then the backup server container through Truenas itself, or through Proxmox, communicates via this one. It's a bit confusing. In a perfect world, in a production environment, you'd obviously want to have Proxmox Backup Server installed on a dedicated machine where it has local storage, and you just point. You wouldn't need any of this NFS stuff. You'd just point your backup target here to the external machine that has all of its storage and stuff externally, and then you can manage the backups of your backups in here. You could set a remote location here. You could point it to a secondary Proxmox Backup Server, and it would actually copy the backups from this server to the secondary server, which you would want to do in a real world. But I don't have infinite servers, so yeah, I have it as a container instead. And then if I were to want to restore a single VM, it wouldn't really be a problem, because I could just restore it directly. And if the whole server broke, then obviously I would have to set up a new Proxmox Backup Server VM, and I would have to mount the guy here, and then I would be able to access my backups. So it's a bit of a hassle to access the backups if the server goes down, but yeah, let's not hope they do that. But yeah, the backup task seems to have completed, and I don't know, it's hard to see if it's actually doing the deduplication, because here it doesn't look like it's deduplicating, because they both have the same size. And you'd think that if it's deduplicating, then, or not deduplicating, but using incremental, you'd think that they would show up as, different sizes. But on both backups, it's the same size. So I have no idea if it's actually deduplicating. I'll only be able to tell once this one has ran a few times, because as you can see, if I just open up some of them, they take up a bit more space than the other ones. So once this has run for a few times, I'll be able to see that it's actually using deduplication by just how much storage it's using. Right now I can't really tell. So that was it. Now I've set up Proxmox Backup Server in a VM, pointing to a Truenas NFS share, which is also in a VM, it's a bit complicated setup, and I'm not sure how well it's going to perform over time, but now at least I do have some kind of backup. So if the VMs themselves have to be restored because I screwed something up in the VMs, then I'll very easily be able to restore it. It's a bit of a more iffy question when I have to restore the entire server if that were to crash, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But at least now I have something. But yeah, hopefully the incremental part is actually working, because otherwise I would be storing the same backup, for 7 days in a row, and I have about 500 gigabytes of data on my Proxmox drive, which wouldn't be a whole lot if it is actually incrementally storing it on my Proxmox Backup Server. But obviously if it isn't, then I'll be filling up my whole virtual drive in Truenas, which I've allocated 2 terabytes. Which should be enough for both of my Proxmox data nodes. But yeah, if the incremental part is not working, then it's going to be filling up very quickly, which would not be that nice. So hopefully it works. Let's see. But at least now I have something. So if the VMs crash, then I have a way to restore them. So hopefully you learned something throughout this video. I definitely did. I did try to set up the backup server in one way incorrectly the first time, and then I got around to setting it up correctly. But don't be like me. Set up your backups when you install whatever server hosting thing. If it's Proxmox or if it's Hypver-V, make sure to set up your backups. I was lazy. I didn't do it for like a year, and now I've finally got around to do it. If you have any thoughts of my setup, please remember to leave it down in the comments below. And while you're down there, you can also leave a like and subscribe, and then I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.